Just picture the music in your head. That's what I do. I'm just like... Dun, dun, dun.
Welcome, guys, to the Women's Soccer Show. Woo! We're changing it up a little bit. I am Ali, and I am joined by...
Hello, everybody. I'm Helen. Is it getting better, at least?
It is getting better. It's getting better, but I don't think you fooled anyone. We have got an absolute cracking show for you. For my American listeners, that means an awesome show. For you guys, we're going to talk about the FA WSL. There was plenty of great games, but of course, with it being me and Sarah talking, we're going to have to crack on with the Arsenal West Ham. I'm just about recovering from the journey down.
I'm really excited. This was a really fun weekend of games. Around Saturday afternoon, I think I got really, really excited for Sunday because I was like, I don't know if I can handle this. This is just literally a day where I get to watch WSL and then I get to watch the NWSL Playoffs. And I'm not sure it can get much better than that.
Absolutely. And it was an absolute amazing day for the WSL, both the Saturday and the Sunday.
True.
It's the reason why I don't like international break, because this was the weekend.
We're 2 weeks out from international break and Allie's still saying that she thinks it's stupid.
Yeah, because this is 4 weeks I've had to wait for WSL games to be back. We had an absolutely amazing game. Chelsea barely beating Aston Villa, which was a shock because many felt that they should have hammered them 4-5-0 and it was a 1-0 just. Man United thought they'd clinched it up until the 94th minute with the most amazing free kick by Rhea Percival going in to make it 1-1. If you haven't checked it out, it is on the socials. We will retweet it because it is one of the most amazing goals I have ever seen. And that says a lot coming from a West Ham fan praising a Spurs goal. That's how good this goal was.
I suppose we're already diving into it. We're not even going to say, let's get into the show, everybody. This is the show. We're already in it. We're deep in it. If everybody is wondering, by the way, from the last episode, Tom was very, very pleased that he was the star of the show. But back to the WSL. We're not going to talk about Tottenham, Man United, but because you bring it up, I have to just say, Tottenham's sitting in third. And I know we're still only 6 games in, but also we're 6 games in. And they're sitting in third place. They're 2 points behind Chelsea right now. I mean, this literally wasn't planned for us to talk about, but I have to ask, like, what has happened with Tottenham?
I think having the new manager, Skinner's finally got the players that she wants, and they're gelling as a unit for the first time. They're using players that I think Karen Hills and didn't do very well. I mean, they're using Ashley Neville really well. Rhea Percival's playing absolutely fantastic. I think Keris Harrop, who came from Birmingham last season, has finally settled in as a defender, and they are an actual unit, and it's paying off.
That's so true. I think it's a really good way to phrase it. They're a unit, because watching Tottenham last year, it was so disjointed.
Yep.
Almost like watching, no offense, but almost, and I don't mean offense by it, but it's just the truth, almost like watching West Ham last year, where it was just like too many different personalities and too many different styles of play trying to meld into one. And all of a sudden, they're a cohesive unit. They're a cohesive team.
I think they got rid of the names. They stripped back a load of the name signings they got, such as, Alana Kennedy. They had a load of name signings last season, and it didn't work, and so they've Gemma Davison, who's now gone to Aston Villa, and it just wasn't cohesive for them. So they've stripped that back. Skinner's gone, these are the kind of players I want. I don't care if you've come up from the Championship or if you've won titles, because I know they signed Simon, which was a huge shock because everybody thought she was going to go to one of the Manchester teams, and she's got players that play the style of football that she wants to play, and boy, is it working.
Well, from Tottenham, who is sitting in third place right now, all the way over to our first place team, my Arsenal. It was a fun game. It was a 0-0 game for the entirety of the first half. Somehow, some way, West Ham escaped that first half 0-0. And then Arsenal comes back out in the second half and puts 4 away, absolutely destroys West Ham, dominated possession, so many shots on goal. As an Arsenal fan, this is just really, really fun to see, because you can feel the momentum in the team. You can feel them building. You can feel that really they're just going to get better and better and better. And mind you, Vivian Miedema did not start this game.
She did not. And she also barely did anything when she got on the pitch.
If you look at the Arsenal that finished the season last year, and then you look at Arsenal this year, one of the main differences is last year it felt like it's Miedema scores or we don't score. And it felt like that in terms of the fact that, A, nobody else was scoring, and that you were watching them on the field, and it seemed like everybody's goal on that field was to get Miedema the ball. And that is no way to win games. And that is so the opposite of how they're playing right now. They're playing beautiful, free-flowing football in which myriads of different players are scoring to the point where Miedema doesn't even need to be on the pitch. I've just gone on a rant about how wonderful Arsenal is, and I've taken us off track. Allie, tell me your impressions of West Ham for this game.
Do you know what? I don't think the scoreline is very fair to the actual performance. No, to the performance that we put in. And what I mean is, yes, we deserve to concede those 4 goals, 100%. But a lot of the report is saying that we rolled over and stuff like that, and we 100% didn't. I mean, Mackenzie Arnold again was on absolute fire last night. If we hadn't had her in goal, we would be looking at another 9-1 drubbing like we had at the beginning of last season. There was a brilliant shot. I think it was 1-on-1 with Paris, and she just fingertip saved it across the bar for a corner that we ended up being able to deal with. So shout out to Mackenzie Arnold. We kept our shape pretty well defensively. I think that's something that we've struggled with in the past, and I thought that with Grace coming back from injury, Gilly and Kate running the back 3, we kept our shape really well. Where we failed and fell down was our midfield. Dagny, who I do love, had a complete off day, and I don't know what she was doing on the pitch. Playing football was not one of it. Yui, because of the way that the Arsenal midfield were coming out, had to go further up to help Claudia out because Leon is out injured. So we were just left with one midfielder, which was Abby Stringer, who did her absolute best but was getting turned over by Kim Little, was getting turned over by Beth Mead, was getting turned over by these world-class players. And so 4-0 is a fair scoreline, but I don't think it shows the real picture because it wasn't like we just sat there and let 4 goals in.
I totally agree. In no way, shape, or form did West Ham roll over. That's really interesting that that's what the news outlets and the papers are saying. What I thought was strangest, frankly, was that West Ham came out with a back 3 against Arsenal. And so all of a sudden, right off the bat in this game, you've got your back 3 matched up 3 against 3 against Nikita Paris, Caitlin Ford, and Beth Mead. And that's quite a front 3 to try to defend. Obviously, it's not man-to-man, but you've got no extra cover when you come out with a back 3. If I'm a West Ham fan, I look at our starting lineup and I kind of question if we could have made this game a little bit more competitive had we come out in a different formation.
I would have said a back 5 would have done us best.
But do you think that you could have scored with a back 5, or do you think that if you come out with a back 5, you're just trying to go for the tie?
We did it against Man City and we beat them 2-0. So it's been done. I think if we'd neutralised the threat of, like you said, Nikita Paris, Beth Mead, Caitlin Ford, then we could have broke, and we did break. There was this one moment in the Arsenal box where Dagny and Claudia Walker couldn't work out who was supposed to shoot. So Dagny's when trying to clear it off to Walker. Walker then pings it back to Dagny, and then Zinsberg just picks the ball up. And that's what I'm saying. So we did break, and we did break well. So we could have done it if we'd had that cover on the defence, which we didn't.
So then why, if you're the West Ham manager, are you coming out in a back 3?
To be honest, I don't know. I don't know if he wanted more of a wing movement with Svitskova and Z. I know we were missing our main winger in Leon, and then Lisa was team tied, so she wasn't allowed to play, which was Arsenal's decision, and it's a fair decision. It happens. It's actually really rare that a manager will let a player on loan play.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I think it's a matter of personnel, and it also could be, as you mentioned, West Ham got kind of destroyed in the midfield. This could have been an attempt to hold down the midfield and hold possession against Arsenal, a team that's really centered on holding possession between their back line and their midfield. And they're going to destroy you by holding that possession and playing through your lines. And if you're playing a 3-4-3, which West Ham was, against Arsenal's 4-3-3, you're matched up for in your midfield against 3 in their midfield. I think where West Ham ended up losing out is that their 3 midfielders really condense in the middle, and then you end up with almost like a 3v2 in the middle in favor of Arsenal, and that's where they were able to really keep possession, and that's where Kim Little just can shine.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like we were drawing your defence out because like Leah Williamson had to keep coming quite forward when we were getting forward, but we just wasn't quite getting it.
Do I get to talk about Arsenal now?
Yes, you do.
I'm not even going to wait for you to ask me a question. I guess I'm just going to talk about Arsenal. For me, and I know I was talking about this earlier, I really wanted to focus for Arsenal on like what has changed. Like last season, at the end of last season, and we spoke about this on one of the first few episodes, the shift of everybody saw Arsenal as this almost like has been, they're falling off. Maybe they'll fall even to, the lower middle of the table in the next year. They used to be the great team, and now we've got others up and coming. And oh my goodness, has this been the opposite of that? So for me, I think it is a combination of many things. I guess the 2 most important ones are you've got a lot of players that are coming into their own right now, that are coming into their prime, and that have done that cohesively together for the last couple of years. They've been building, they've been working on their own individual game, and they've been working as a team together for the last 2-3 years. And these young players are now entering their prime, and they're frankly unstoppable. I mean, Leah Williamson is playing like one of the best backs in the world right now. You've got Kim Little, who's just absolutely world class. I think I saw a stat where she's 50 goals in 98 games in the WSL, which is absolutely wild. You've got Beth Mead, who is arguably the best striker in the WSL right now. And you've just got everybody really coming into their own. I could keep going. Katie McCabe has really come into her own. She can play anywhere on the field. And so I'd argue that it's a combination of everybody growing together and that aligning at the right time and their new coach.
Yeah, I think there is a maturity about this Arsenal squad that I don't think was there last season. There's definitely, I don't know if it was last season that sort of kicked them in the backside, being like, you can't play like that if you want to try for Champions League and challenge for that, because you play Barcelona, you're going to get your backside handed to you if you have that immaturity. I think one of the biggest players I've seen grown, and she's only signed for Arsenal this season, is Nikita Paris. And seeing her play last night is a key showing of that. I think her time at Lyon did her a world of good, because last time I saw Nikita Paris play, she was playing for Man City, and she got sort of like tapped on the ankle, so it would have hurt, but it wasn't a going down offence. And she literally fell down, rolled over, and then when the ref didn't give anything, she just screeched at him, "You're what?" because she was begging for the foul.
Yeah.
Last night, she got tackled pretty hard by Kate Longhurst. I mean, like, you wouldn't have envied her have how much that would have hurt. And literally, she just got up, shook it off.
I think that's a really great point. And that goes with, them being young players who are coming into their own. You can come into your own, tactically, physically, and you need to come into your own mentally. And that's really what we're seeing. And they've got such strong leadership all over the field. You look at every single line, and they've got a really strong mental, emotional leader in that line. And that's so, so important.
Though I do want to bring up a slightly controversial point, which I understand is going to sound like sour grapes, but I would like to point out that Sky Sports backed what I'm about to say, which is the first goal was offside. Kim Little's first goal was offside.
It is what it is. It was too close to call, and when you don't have VAR, and I like that there isn't VAR, when something's that close, whatever. It drives me up the wall when somebody gets called offside because like their pinky nail happened to be slightly over that virtual line. And so to the naked eye, I think that this looked like she was onside. And that's it.
I'm going to say as someone who was there, she was off by miles. But
either way, I don't think that this is one of those goals that we could debate and say, but if they had called that back, it would have been a different result in this game. I think at that point in the game, Arsenal was rolling.
I'm going to ask you, as an Arsenal fan, what is it going to take to get you lot going? Because I was at that match last night, as I've said, us West Ham fans, we sat together, and there was about 25 of us all sat because the men were playing at the same time. We were louder than all Arsenal fans.
And that's embarrassing.
The only time you guys made any noise was when you scored.
That's embarrassing.
There was no cheering, there was no chanting, and I don't know if I'm spoiled because as a West Ham fan, we don't shut up. We don't at all. And I just give a shout out to the 3 lads that were behind us that were telling me she was stuck in the mud, which was hilarious. But literally, we had to bring out the men's chant of "Is this a library?" because it was so quiet.
I don't know what to say. Arsenal fans, if any of you were there, let us know. I haven't had the pleasure of being at a WSL game live, but next time, if I get to go, you bet your ass I'm going to be up in those stands jumping around and chanting. I mean, that's the whole fun of being at a soccer game, really. I don't want to turn this around into a mean thing about you, but do you think it was because they were playing West Ham people were disinterested?
Possibly. No, do you know what? That is a fair point, but I'm just saying, we beat Man City 2-0 and their fans were much louder than the Arsenal fans winning 4-0.
Well, it's easy to be loud when you've got Helen in the stands, you know?
That's true. That is very true. And for once, she's not sulking. She's off, probably hungover from celebrating the rarity of a Man City win.
Well, with that, should we go around the world, around the world? Here we go.
I'm going to start off with my favourite league at the moment, which is the German league, the Frauen Bundesliga.
Your German accent is better than any of your other accents. If I'm ranking them, it's definitely the best so far.
And it continues to be one of the most exciting leagues in Europe. Week 7 and Bayern Munich have crept away from the pack with their win, taking them just 2 points clear of Wolfsburg. However, the game of the week has to be Bayern Luckenhausen versus Cologne. Cologne surprised the title contenders with 3 goals before half-time. However, it looked like Luckenhausen were going to stage a comeback. The comeback of all comebacks by pulling 2 goals in quick succession, one at 61, one at 63.
Oh my goodness. However,
Cologne got a penalty on the 80th minute,
Woo!
But Lucas got another goal and the game ended 3-4.
Oh my goodness.
So that was a game, and let me
what
tell
a game. Moving over into Spain, Barcelona, as predicted, are settling in comfortably at the top of the Primera División. 9 games played, 9 games won. Who's surprised? Eibar being the latest team to fall to the champions. Real Sociedad won against Betis, and Atletico only managed a draw against Valencia. The real fight seems to be for Champions League spots rather than for this title. That is that second Champions League spot, since there's only 2 coming out of Spain.
Yep, absolutely. Now, for a different league, we're going for Scotland. North of the border, the title race seems to be contained within the walls of Glasgow. Rangers have a 2-point advantage over Glasgow City, who in turn have a 3-point advantage over Celtic. Rangers actually beat third place Celtic this weekend with 1-0 to help widen the gap. However, game of the week again has to go to Motherwell versus Aberdeen, which was a 7-goal thriller with a late card for Amy Anderson. The home side clung on for the win, another 4-3.
I'm excited that we're covering Scotland now. Over to Mexico, back to one of our other favorite leagues. The Tigres are top of the board with a game in hand and 2 points clear, followed by their closest competitors, Monterrey, who won against San Luis. However, there are 3 teams on 30 points in 3rd, 4th, and 5th. This means that the playoff places are nowhere near decided. The top 8 are making them, but it seems that the order in which they will fall is totally undecided. So, if anything, this league is really heating up at the end.
Have you checked out Total Football Analysis yet? TotalFootballAnalysis.com provides researched analysis on loads of football games, including women's football. Want to know why Miedemar scores so many goals? Do you want to explore how City have turned it around this season? Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and sign up to learn more about the beautiful game. We have a special discount for listeners of the Women's Soccer Show. At checkout, type WOSO10 to get a full year for €10. That's €40 off the yearly subscription. Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and type WOSO10 at checkout.
And now we're going to have to talk about it. We're going to have to talk about it because I'm really excited. This is the NWSL Playoffs. Happened this weekend. On Sunday, there were 2 games. This was the quarterfinals. It's confusing because there's 2 quarterfinal games because 2 teams got a bye. So we'll play 2 quarterfinal games, which just got played. And then we're going to have 2 semifinal games next weekend. And then we'll have the finals. I just started that off by confusing everybody. I'm really excited to talk about these. We had 2 games, Gotham FC versus Chicago, Washington versus North Carolina. Did you catch these games, Allie? I'm putting you on the spot.
You are. So I caught the highlights of Gotham versus Chicago, and I feel like I got duped into the least interesting, shall we say, of the two.
Yeah, I was really bummed that this one came first, to be honest. This was a absolute snooze fest. Really, really disappointing. But then the second game, North Carolina versus Washington, was just so exciting. I was pretty bored by the end of the Gotham game, so I do feel bad. It's kind of a bummer for the league that the boring one came first, because there's a chance that everybody tuned into that one and then turned off the TV, but perhaps they just tuned into the nighttime game. But nonetheless, we're going to talk about both of these games. We're going to cover Gotham FC in Chicago, but we're really going to dive in and have most of the conversation around Washington versus North Carolina, because that game went into overtime. It was super fun. So Gotham FC versus Chicago. Like we just said, this game was super low energy. No team played really particularly well, I would say. My main takeaway from this at the end of the day was, if either of these teams shows up like this against Portland, it's not even going to be a game worth watching, because neither of these teams played well. Neither of them showed up like they were in the playoffs. At the end of the day, it was a disappointing playoff game. There was no playoff energy to it. And to talk Gotham specifically, because yes, everybody, I did have Gotham to win the entire thing. This is like the Olympics all over again when I picked Brazil.
You went with your heart, not your brain.
I went with my heart, and I know I was doing it. And I stand by that. If they had played their game, that they might have won. The problem was they couldn't find their game. Gotham was able to connect passes in the back and in the midfield and able to change the point of possession, but they could not, for the life of them, find that extra pass into their front line, and they could not get really any shots on goal whatsoever. But all in all, disappointing result in the end for Gotham. On the positive side, I will say that this team finished the season with like 7 out of their last 8 games played away, and that's a lot to put on a team. And Gotham as a whole, everybody knows that Gotham is a rebrand. They used to be Sky Blue FC.
The notorious.
The notorious Sky Blue FC, who are notorious for sucking, for not making the playoffs. This is Gotham's first time making the playoffs in, I believe, 6 years. I should fact check myself. Maybe it's 5. But it's been a very long time since this club has even been a contender to almost make the playoffs. So to say that Gotham finished 5th in the league, made the playoffs, and put up a fight in their first playoff game in a while, I'm proud of this club. It's headed in the right direction. They have a coach that believes in them, and they've got a bunch of young talent all around the field, and it's only up from here for Gotham.
Yeah, for sure. From, like I said, I only saw the highlights, but from what I saw, everybody just looked tired.
I think that that's a good description, and it's no disrespect to Chicago. I mean, at the end of the day, they were the better side. On this day, they deserved to win that game. Does that mean that they played a great game and that this was, their best that they put forward in the playoffs? Absolutely not. Mallory Pugh scored a fantastically beautiful goal, but it was off of a mistake made by Kaylin Sheridan, goalkeeper for Gotham FC. So yes, Chicago did deserve to win this game. They were the better side. And also, they need to step it up for next weekend. They have a lot of stars. They've got a lot of goal scorers. They need whoever is their leadership on the field to make sure that they bring that energy next weekend. Otherwise, it's going to be a very easy match for Portland.
Do you think they did that on purpose? Do you think that maybe they sort of stepped it down and did what they had to do?
Absolutely not. I will never say yes to that question, no matter what the team, no matter what the sport, because at the end of the day, these are competitors. These are competitive athletes playing in a competitive game, and it would be like so stupid for them to try to walk the line of we're only going to put out enough effort to barely win. No, they're going to come out and win, and I also think it would do them much better to gain momentum. The only benefit I think that teams have in this situation, where some teams get a bye and some teams don't. The only benefit that the team that doesn't get the bye has, frankly, is that they have more momentum. They're more tired than the team that has the bye, but they could have more momentum. And that's usually when they win those games. So to the detriment of Chicago, they didn't play that well. They're off to Portland for next weekend. I should have checked. Do you know who you had for Gotham versus Chicago?
I said Gotham too, but I did say Portland overall.
You did say Portland overall. So I'm assuming you've got Portland here against Chicago.
Absolutely, 100%.
I've got Portland against Chicago. I was very unimpressed, Chicago. But Chicago fans, I don't know, prove me wrong.
Also, very quick question. Do you think Carly Lloyd got player of the match just because it was her last ever match?
Absolutely. She didn't have that great of a game.
I mean, I know we've dogged on Carly Lloyd, but from what I saw, I was like, oh, she played. And that was my response.
Well, to be honest, nobody on Gotham FC had a great game. To that point, I'm really glad you brought that up because now I'm remembering that I do want to say this. I think it was because of how Chicago's defense were playing Gotham's back line, but Midge Purse, who almost just barely missed Golden Boot for the whole league, was gone. She was nowhere to be found in this game. That's the whole story of this game for Gotham. Nobody was player of the match. So, yeah, why not give it to Carly?
Shall we move on to the more exciting, thrilling, much better playoff? Let's dive into Washington, North Carolina.
I have so many just like highlight things to say about this game. This was so exciting. I'll say spoiler alert for where I probably already said the score, so my bad. But spoiler alert for those of you who haven't watched it yet, but I hope you have at this point. It went 0-0 in regular time, and then Washington won in extra time on a gorgeous goal from Rodman to Ashley Hatch.
Rodman.
I mean, really, how else? It's just so fitting for Washington. Rodman, most likely rookie of the year, to Hatch, Golden Boot winner. Washington's front line is really to be feared. So how else could it really happen in overtime but from those two? Just class players, having great seasons, and then coming up big in the playoffs. You'll love to see it.
Trinity Rodman has been one of the most amazing players to sit and watch from like an outside perspective, just because she's just exciting. Like, she's got that young energy, but at the same time, she's got a really like wise head on her shoulders. So she's really skillful and really knows how to play, but at the same time, she's just got that which is just so exciting to play.
I totally agree. I kind of felt that way about Ebony Salmon last year when she burst onto the scene in my world. I know a lot of other people were aware of her, but for me, my eyes just got open to Ebony Salmon and her brilliance. She's kind of disappeared a little bit with Racing Louisville, but that's not what we're here to talk about. I absolutely agree. Trinity Rodman, if she's not Rookie of the Year, I don't know what's going on. We can talk about what everybody did on the field. At the end of the day, the story of this game is that the goalkeepers had probably at least like 6 world-class, could be save of the month saves. And that is the only reason that this game went into overtime 0-0. It was stunning. Why this game was fun was that it was very back and forth. One team, North Carolina, would take control and they would be knocking on the door for 10 minutes straight, and you'd be sitting there being like, "Oh my goodness, Washington can't make their way out of this. It's only a matter of time before North Carolina scores." And then they'd kind of find their formation, they'd get it together, they'd get a little bit of possession, and then all of a sudden they would take over, and Washington would have their moment for 10 minutes, and it was a very open game. There was very little like midfield possession. It was wide open. It was back and forth. There were tons of shots, and each team had their moments of kind of taking control, but nobody could really put it away. And those are such fun games to watch. I mean, that's what you want in a playoff game.
As a neutral, I can imagine if you're a fan of either Washington or North Carolina, you were so frustrated by the end of those 90 minutes. So we're going to talk about teams. I want to talk about Washington first, because they went in as the favourites, as you rudely ribbed me about me backing North Carolina, being like, really? You're going to go for the team that's 6th? Really? You're going to go for North Carolina, who haven't had the game thing?
I don't think that's how I said it, but okay.
I'm pretty sure listeners listen back to last week's episode. I'm pretty sure how that went. We're going to talk about their midfield, because that was something. Their
midfield is so interesting. I think, and this is an interesting game too, because it highlighted their midfield. When Washington was able to keep possession of the ball, it was because their midfield, Andy Sullivan specifically, like, she sits as that number 6, and she's so skilled at that, and she's so good at controlling the game and keeping possession and switching the field. And she was getting caught out of position a lot. And when she was getting caught out of position, it was opening up all of that space for North Carolina to exploit right in front of their back line. And that's what was happening. So I think that they've got an amazing front line. They've got Rodman, they've got Hatch, they've got Sanchez. But where they're going to win games for me at this point in the playoffs is in their midfield. And it's through a player like Andy Sullivan who needs to sit back and control the game. And they made a change at halftime. Tori Huster came on, who unfortunately ended up also having to go off with a really bad injury that I hope she's okay. We haven't heard any updates. But for the time that she was on the field, she made a huge impact because she allowed Andy Sullivan to really sit back as that 6. And she was the one who was up playing the box to box. She was the one who's making runs and breaking lines and keeping possession in that way. And I think that that's going to be their key moving forward, especially in this next game against OL Reign.
That I can't wait for.
Oh, we're going to come on to that. Don't you worry.
Oh, we will. But we're going to talk about what was my pick. And I'm free to concede that I did get it wrong, as I did with the Gotham pick. However, I haven't seen all the highlights, but I've seen bits and pieces. And this seemed like, I don't even want to say it was the new North Carolina Courage. It felt like the old North Carolina.
Totally.
That everybody didn't want to play. Unless you're a fan of them, you didn't really like them. I've heard the Portland chants. I know what you all think of the North Carolina Courage. So for me, it was like the opposite of what Gotham did and what Chicago did. Is they stepped it up for the playoffs, and that's what it felt more like to me, was the fact that it was a different energy, but in a positive way.
That's such a good point. I was expecting North Carolina to kind of limp into this game and be there and then leave. And it's just so interesting what a legacy and a mentality of a legacy can really do. And I've heard players on North Carolina, Sam Mewis is hurt right now, but she's obviously an intrinsic part of that team, say that their team, no matter how much they won, they still had that underdog mentality. So I just kind of can't help but wonder if now all of a sudden they actually were in the underdog spot for the first time in 4 years, and they kind of thrived in it. And that mentality of winning, because winning can be a mentality that is just passed on from year to year. And North Carolina really showed up as these big dogs who were yeah, but we know how to win. They put up a fight. I was really impressed with how they played. It was a really even match. I think at the end of the day, either of these teams could have come out of it. Washington ended up being the better side because they had the better 15 minutes in that second extra time. But I was really impressed by how North Carolina was able to kind of pull it together. And yeah, they looked for a moment like a terrifying old North Carolina Courage.
So we are going to talk about the next match because it is Washington versus OL Reign, aka Seattle. I can't call them OL Reign.
I know, it's so weird. We can just call them Seattle.
Yeah, they are the Seattle Reign.
Let's call them Seattle Reign. So this is an interesting one, and this is a really, really fun one. This is the number 2 seed, Seattle, versus the number 3 seed, Washington. Seattle obviously coming off a bye. Washington obviously coming off a game where they played an extra 30 minutes.
I was going to say, is that going to affect them, do you think? Because it's tiring. It is tiring playing that. And you do often see a slump. You often see a slump with the team who've had to play the extra time, possibly going into penalties, and then the next game they're just shattered.
It's tiring also because it's a long season. OL Reign came out of this regular season, I think, the quote-unquote hottest team. They were the best team for the last 4 games, I would say, of the regular season. And it's this whole thing again where I do wonder about what this bye will do to them versus what the 90 minutes plus 30 will do to Washington. Before I watched this Washington-North Carolina game, I would have said, hands down, Seattle's taking this game. The way Washington played, though, I was very, very impressed. I want to pick the underdog, but I'm just not going to. I think it's going to be Seattle, and I think it's going to be a 2-1 game.
Ooh, very nice. I also think it's going to be Seattle. I would love it to be Washington. I genuinely would love it to be Washington because I think they are the underdog. They've been scrappy and they've fought so hard to get here and push themselves, because for a while a lot of people wrote off Washington's spirit, but I do think the combination of having a long season, a long playoff game of 120 minutes to play a team that is fully refreshed and rested and will have been going over tactics and will have watched that playoff game knowing that the outcome would be who they play. And we'll have picked up some different things and pieces. I would like to be proved wrong, but I do think we're going to be in for a Portland-Seattle grand finale, which I know the fans will be excited for, because that is a proper rivalry.
That is a proper rivalry. That is going to be, if that happens, best thing for ratings, to be honest, and just so much fun for the fans, so much fun for Seattle fans, so much fun for Portland fans. Fun for me as well, as a fan of neither of those teams. So we've got both playoff games, both semifinal games next weekend for the NWSL. Chicago at Portland and Washington at OL Reign. And then we're back with the WSL, baby. We're back. We got another weekend of games next week.
We do. And there's going to be some exciting ones, because Manchester City play Chelsea, which I think is going to be a very interesting matchup, because they've already played each other in the FA Cup semi-final, which, as I quoted, was a very lacklustre affair, to be honest. But I'm hoping that the win with Leicester and the fact that Chelsea have got to fight Arsenal for this league will be exciting. We've also got a North London derby in Tottenham Arsenal, which is going to be a marvellous game, because, again, if you told me this at the beginning of the season, I would have gone, oh, so another walkover of Tottenham. Yep. But not this time, my friends.
I have to readjust my eyes, because I'm used to seeing the North London derby and being like, well, yeah, but whatever. And this year it's like, no. Actually, this is a game to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. We've also got a second City derby in Birmingham City versus Aston Villa, which isn't as big, maybe, say, as the North London derby, but for the Midlands, it's huge. It is a massive thing. They played each other for the first time last season, and it was Birmingham, I think, won the first one, and then it was a draw for the second one. So there's a lot of grudges to be had in this game.
It'll be more of an evenly matched game, and something that if Aston Villa can pull it out of the bag, they can really establish themselves as more of a middle table team and less of a potentially going down and being relegated team. Well, we will obviously highlight a bunch of these games. We're going to highlight the game that we find to be most interesting and the best game, as we usually do, but we're going to talk about all of these. We've got so much for next week. Thank you, everybody, for listening. This is the Women's Soccer Show. I've been Sarah.
And I've been Allie.
And thank you all for listening. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.